Your horse will greatly appreciate it, because I know if I was a horse, I would not want flies all over. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be making another video, obviously, and I know it's been like 4 weeks, but it's the end of the summer and I've been really busy with working, and I'm starting summer band now, so been a little busy, but I'm trying to get back in the swing of things. I'm sorry, but anyway, so today's video is going to be essentials or things you need when you first start owning your own horse, when you get your own horse. So there's a lot of stuff that is pretty obvious when you first buy your own horse. You need to make sure you are able to feed your horse. You make sure you're able to give them water and a nice area for them to stay in, whether it's a pasture or a pretty good big sized pen like mine, because we don't keep Brownie in a pasture, we keep him in a bigger pen. So you need to make sure you have food, water, and a place for him to stay. Now you also need to make sure you have a place for shelter or a higher up part of the ground where your horse can stand out of water. If it rains or snows a lot, you need to make sure that he's able to get somewhere dry and everything like that. Now, as far as tack goes, you need to make sure you have a saddle that fits you well. I recommend a saddle that's just a little bit bigger than if you were to sit in it and you'd be perfectly square in it. If you're sitting in the saddle and the front part of it where the horn is, and this is going mainly toward Western riders because I'm not big on English, so I'm sorry about that. This is mainly a Western channel, but if you're interested you can keep watching. But if you're sitting in the saddle and the front part of it and the back part of it is up against you when you're sitting in it, that's okay. That means that it pretty much fits you, but in my opinion I would go one more size up or half a size up or something, so that way whenever you're riding you have a little more room to move and you're not so jam-packed in your saddle. It's just, in my opinion, more comfortable and easier to ride in. Now with stirrups, you need to make sure that they are long enough to where you can stand up, or short enough to where you can stand up in them, but not too long to where you can't stand up. So you need to have them just right where your legs are close to a 90-degree angle. Not quite a 90-degree angle, but close to it, because that way you have room to post in your saddle and just be easier to ride overall. I would recommend not wearing horseshoes. In my opinion, or like I recommend not getting your horse shoed. I recommend them being trimmed. Their hooves need to be trimmed, but I don't recommend shoes. Horses were naturally born without shoes, and I believe that wearing the horseshoes can be worse than not wearing shoes, because with that piece of metal on their foot, if you were to ride, let's say ride in a parade, you're walking down the pavement, the metal can be slippery and they can slip on the road, and that would be a terrible disaster, and you just don't want that to happen. Now that's just my opinion, so if you're one of the people that loves to put horseshoes on, that is totally fine, but my opinion, I don't like horseshoes because they can be more dangerous than not having any horseshoes. So that's just one thing that you need to think about as you have your new horse and everything. But I do recommend trimming your hooves, trimming the horse's hooves. That is a big must, because if you don't trim their hooves, they're going to get too long, and eventually they'll get to where when they walk, they'll chip off, or they can grow curled upward, and you do not want that, because that will hurt their hoof to where you can't really get it back to the shape that it needs to be. I also recommend a good bridle. Now you need to figure out how to adjust it to your horse's head, and I recommend a throat latch, but you don't necessarily need one. That's just my opinion. I prefer one, but if I have a bridle that doesn't have one, then I'll ride with it. But I prefer a throat latch. Is just more safety to make sure that your bridle stays on. But you just make sure that you can get 2 fingers from their face and the strap into the bridle. So stick 2 fingers in and make sure that you can. And if you can, then it's comfortable for the horse. Now, bits or hackamores, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you and your horse feels more comfortable riding with. I prefer bits. That's just what my horse works with best. But it's whatever your horse works with best. So you're going to need to figure out, you're going to need to try both, and you're going to need to figure out which one you and your horse works best with. I recommend, no matter what you're doing, wearing splint boots or medicine boots, like any kind of horse boots that protects the tendons. Whether you're walking on a trail ride, you never know what could happen, and by them having those boots on, it's just a little bit more protection rather than if they weren't wearing them. But that's just my opinion, and I think that it's better to have that support on their leg. But in my opinion, no matter what you're doing, just go ahead, when you're tacking up, just go ahead and put those on, because it's always better to be safe than sorry. Now, I recommend a good saddle pad. You don't want one that's too thick, but you don't want one that's too thin. Now, if your horse has higher withers, which basically means the bone from their mane to their back, it's that little arch right there. If they have high withers, you're gonna need probably 2 thinner-ish pads, probably about, I don't know, that thick, 2 of those, just to give your horse more protection on their back. But if your horse doesn't have as much wither, which means the bone doesn't stick up as much, you can use just a little bit of a thicker pad and just use 1 pad. But with Brownie, he has a little bit higher withers, so I need to use 2 pads in order to have more protection for him. I also recommend, when you first get your horse, that you have a good grooming kit. I recommend a stiff brush and a soft brush and a metal curry comb and a gel curry comb, because metal curry combs, you don't need them in the summer, but you may need a curry comb. So they make rubber curry combs that, you know, aren't metal, so you can use that the months that your horse doesn't have their winter coat. I recommend having you need fly spray and a fly mask. I recommend those 2 things greatly. My horse had a cut on his eye. He cut his eye on the fence, and I bought him a fly mask to keep the flies out of his eyes, because he's so bad with flies in his eyes. And so I bought him a fly mask. Those things are amazing, because they have kept the flies out of his eyes. His eyes aren't runny with, you know, the wind blowing and dirt and stuff. And that cut on his eye healed up really quick, because all the nasty flies and stuff weren't bothering him. And so I recommend fly mask and fly spray, because your horse will greatly appreciate it, because I know if I was a horse, I would not want flies all over me and everything. But yeah, I can't think of anything else, guys. I'm probably leaving a few things out, but that's the majority. I went over, you know, saddle and pads and bridle. Also, if you find out that when you're riding your horse, he throws his head up, you need to make sure that you get him a tie down, and basically it's a little thing that goes over his nose, and then a little strap that goes behind his ears and connects to the thing that goes over his nose. And then hanging down from that is a long strap that whenever you cinch up your saddle, you strap that little thing, and it comes with a clip on the end of it. You clip it to the little clip on your front cinch, and it's to help them when they throw their head up. They can't throw their head up because that it's clipped down under between their legs. But that's just another thing to look out for. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope I went over most of everything, and I hope this helped a lot of you out there who are new to riding or new to horses or just whatever. I hope this helped and that you enjoyed this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.